Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. Today is Independence Day here in the US, so happy Independence Day. I'm careful not to say happy 4th of July because we're not celebrating the fact that it's the 4th of July. We are celebrating our independence, so happy Independence Day.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Of course, it is God ultimately who makes us free. But do we use our freedom to strive to become what God made us to be? Yesterday was the feast of St. Thomas in the modern calendar. In the traditional calendar, it's December 21, but it's July 3 in the modern calendar. Of course, we know that St. Thomas gets the unfortunate nickname Doubting Thomas. We hear in the Gospel for the feast that St. Thomas, unless he touches the nail marks and puts his hand in our Lord's side, he will not believe, and thus he gets labeled as doubting, which is unfair that he gets that label because, if you think about it, he's no different than the others. On Easter morning, when the women went to the tomb, they brought spices so that they might go and anoint him. They assumed to see the body of Jesus there, despite what Jesus said about him rising on the third day. Only when they saw the Lord did they believe. The other apostles also doubted until they saw. The disciples on the road to Emmaus also doubted. It wasn't until they saw that they believed. So St. Thomas did not doubt any more than the other apostles and the women. It's just that they saw him first. The truth is that St. Thomas was a man of boldness and courage. We hear him speak a couple of times in the Gospel of St. John. In chapter 11, when Lazarus is dying, Jesus says that they are going to Judea. The apostles remind him that the Jews there were trying to stone him, but Jesus says, "We're going anyway." And it was St. Thomas who said, "Let us also go to die with him." So here we see in him that boldness and courage, and also a willingness to even die with the Lord. In chapter 14, and we hear this reading a lot at funerals, Jesus says to them, "Where I am going, you know the way." Thomas says, "How can we know the way?" In that, Thomas shows an interest in knowing the way. He wants to follow the Lord. He wanted to know the way. So it's not that St. Thomas doubted, at least not any more than the others did. He was, however, a work in progress, just like you and I are. He didn't have any particularly special gifts, but what he did have is what the saints call a holy desire. So what is holy desire? Holy desire is the desire for perfection, the desire for holiness, the desire to become a saint. It's not a feeling, but a general but sincere disposition that I want to become a saint. Nor is it just a wishful thinking that hopefully one day I can become a saint, but a real desire, a wanting to become a saint, and a readiness to work toward it, cooperating with God's grace. If you think about it, how many of us truly want to become a saint and are willing to sacrifice for it? Unfortunately, the distractions of the world often distract us. That's why they're called distractions. And they keep us from thinking about holy things. But St. Alphonsus Liguori writes, "Consider that in order to become a saint, it is necessary to have a great desire of holiness. No saint has ever become a saint without having a great desire for sanctity." Another St. Thomas Aquinas said that holy desire is half the work of becoming a saint. Again, how many of us truly want to become a saint? We must have holy desire, if only because God calls us to it, and it is what we were made for. That's one of the great things about daily Mass, which I talked about in the last video. Daily Mass returns our focus to what's above, to the supernatural. Daily prayer, likewise. And it's why having a regular devotional life is important. These things express a longing, a yearning for the sacred. Do we truly desire to become a saint? This is a grace that God gives to us, this holy desire. We need to ask for it and pray that God grant it to us, this grace to desire holiness. But then we must use every day of our life here on earth to cooperate with that grace through prayer, devotion to the sacraments, through daily cultivation of the virtues, and a daily rooting out of sin from our life, as well as a detachment from earthly things, so that one day we may reach the perfection to which our Lord calls us. May God grant us this grace of holy desire. God bless you.